This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 110.
Son came home, a freshman in high school, one day and said that his teacher had been talking about stock trading and that he wanted to learn about stock trading, and he knew that I had done a little bit. And so we started on a different journey together, which was not so good.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host, who has a bad problem of not minding his own business when it comes to other people's business. Play Trader.
Yeah, that's right. If you own a business, if you're kind of high up within a business, then probably don't tell me that unless you want me to just straight up interview you, because as a business owner myself, as somebody that just likes to build businesses, I will talk your ear off. I will ask you questions just to learn as much as I can. And it's funny because right at the end of the interview that you're about to hear, our guest talks about how they used to do a certain type of business. And I'm going to pat myself on the back here, but I wanted to go right there. And I promise this was not scripted. This is just the way the fun fact aligned with our guest, but perfect timing. But I did a good job. I didn't sit there and impress them, but I wanted to give them a whole sales pitch on why they needed to get that business up and running again, but I held off. So if you do have some sort of business, I will not mind my own business. I'm going to ask you all about it. And Ches, you probably know that we're well into the hundreds of the episodes now. So we're starting to get to know each other, but do you have anything in life that kind of fascinates you? Doesn't have to necessarily be somebody that owns a business, but anything where if they say something, you'll just start to, pretty much Chris Hansen them and just, why don't you take a seat? I got a bunch of questions for you.
Yeah, totally. So I'm kind of in the same boat. My dad's like a very smart, knowledgeable, well-rounded kind of guy. And so considering I work from home, I used to work in an office and you could interact with people and ask them stuff. But now if I go out to dinner or go to a bar or something, if somebody brings up anything that I don't know about, I'm exactly like you in the sense of I'm going to ask you probably like 30 straight questions back to back to the point where I'll buy you a beer to say thank you. But like I'm just a very curious person. I like to kind of learn about a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, any kind of business ventures, any kind of stuff, one of the funny ones is I was actually, when I was traveling, I was in Florida. I met one of the guys who patented the porta potty, and I had like 1,000 questions, and he's like, I actually make my money from poop. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I actually spent the evening talking to him and his family, but I'm definitely the same way.
Yeah. Poop. That's a great business model, by the way. Speaking of business, I mean, if there's one guarantee in life, it's poop, right? I mean, I think that's all that needs to be said. So yeah, in fact, I think we both need to start to brainstorm poop and how we can make money off of it going forward, because there's not many guarantees in life besides death, taxes, and I'm going to add to that Benjamin Franklin quote, poop. So there we go. There's the new updated version. But
maybe some of the listeners have suggestions. They can leave them in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if you got a good business adventure that revolves around poop, please let us know for sure. Now, we completed the interview. I made it through. For you longer time listeners, you know that I'm a little shy when it comes to females. And we have finally our third female guest. Rena is joining us. She goes by Rena, letter B, in the chat room, and she's around quite a bit. So I'm assuming some of you listeners have interacted with her. But she joins the club. She is now going to be part of what we'll call the Three Queens. We had Keisha, we had Sean, and now we have Rena. And for any of you other female listeners out there, we would love to interview. So it's not that we're biased or anything like that. It's just, I don't know what it is, but we got ourselves another female guest, and it was a great interview. In fact, there's one portion towards the end where we're all kind of stumbling over our words because we're trying to explain a concept that we can all relate to, but because it's hard to explain, but it just really does a good job of summarizing why trading can be so tricky, because it is a very mental game and it's hard to explain what exactly is going on. So I made the comment, and the more I think about it, the more I stand by it. Definitely one of the more important conversations that we've had really in the history of the podcast, because it does cover such a topic, but also illustrates why trading is so tricky, because we're all stumbling over our words. And, I don't want to, spoil anymore, but definitely stick around for the entire podcast, because that's definitely an important part for it. So let's get started with RenaB. Rena, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing this fine day?
Excellent. Thank you.
Good. Now, Rena, I first just want to give a public shout out to you. We have talked before, and this was within a context of a live webinar that is part of the Clay Trader University program. But Rena, as I explained on that webinar, has quickly shot up the favorites list of mine because she, I don't want to say unknown, but kind of unknown. She was a newer face in the community, and she shot me an email, and the way the email was constructed, it was in depth, and she talked about a loss she had taken, and not the prettiest thing, lots of mistakes. And I just said, hey, do you want to come on the live webinar tonight in like an hour? And she's like, sure. So that night, an hour later, she was on the live webinar sharing with our university members, walking us through the trade and just kind of the mistakes she made that led to a not so favorable outcome. But sure, there was mistakes, but as Ches can attest to, it's never easy to talk about losing. It's never, let alone publicly about it with other people. So Rena, I gave you, and I still give you all the credit in the world for doing that. And the feedback for that has been great. A lot of people learned things. A lot of people had rules reaffirmed. Ches, that was a great webinar on her part, wasn't it?
No, it was a fantastic webinar. And I also want to say thank you, because it's hard enough alone for us to get people to talk publicly about trades that go their way, and to talk about a trade that didn't go your way is kind of a learning lesson for everybody, including yourself and, everybody in the room. Yeah, that was totally awesome. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah. So that was legit. So Rena, she could pretty much say, Clay, you're terrible. Ches, you're terrible. And she's still going to be one of my favorites, because there's certain things that can be done where basically she could break every rule in the community now, and I'll say, oh, it's Rena. It's fine. But hopefully you don't take advantage of that too much, Rena. But anyways, let's get into your story.
Pet.
What's that?
Teacher's pet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When you came on the live webinar, that was like the metaphorical big old red apple that you placed right on the desk. And I'm still eating that thing up. So yeah, props to you for the courage. And as I was telling her, this actually is not live. The webinars are live. So if she can make it through a live interview, then, this is going to be,
she already survived the trial by fire. So
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely fine here.
Yeah, this is going to be like child's play. So anyways, Rena, I know you've been in the market for a while. And on that webinar, I kind of cut you off a few times saying, no, I don't want to know any of that. Let's save that for the actual podcast. So now we can get into all the nitty gritty details of your journey. So where did this all start for you? How did you learn about the market, and what got you kind of interested enough to, want to start to get a little bit more active in it?
I probably have kind of a boring story.
Whatever. I guarantee this is, with that famous last words, you probably have an awesome story.
The mutual funds. My husband and I are self-employed, and we had opened a couple of mutual funds for some tax savings and, of course, future retirement type funds. And that's kind of what got me intrigued about the market. So I opened my first Scottrade account and started just doing some moderately short-term trading.
So you were trading off the bat. Now, can you kind of explain how you were deciding to kind of get into these names? Or are you doing kind of fundamental research? Or, most people who open up accounts like that or mutual funds and stuff, they just kind of put it in diversified portfolios and then check on it in like 6 months. So obviously right from the get-go, you already sound like you're looking for the shorter term kind of gain. So what was your criteria to even find, what to put your money into?
Yeah, so my mutual fund account is separate. That is one of those, don't look at it for months at a time, but I did decide I wanted to do some shorter term stuff. I should have prefaced that, I guess, because I had researched quite a bit. Like my husband always says, I don't do anything halfway, that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to know everything there is about it.
Nice.
So I had done quite a bit of research on technical analysis and learned about support and resistance and trend lines and, a lot of the more common technical analysis stuff. So I wasn't going in what I would consider completely blind, but I, of course, know a lot more now than I did then. But I did said, do a fair amount of research. And my first couple of stocks were actually natural energy stocks of some sort. I don't remember for sure what they were, but that's where I started.
What year was this? Just roughly?
2009, I believe, beginning of 2009.
Okay. And you sound very familiar to how I got started. So did you pay attention to the markets at all before the mutual funds?
Some, not a huge amount, I guess. My husband is an expert witness for railroad injury cases, and I do all of his administrative stuff and his paralegal type things. But so probably the most common thing that we would watch would be railroad stocks. And he had worked for the railroad for a good number of years, so he had been in and out of their stock before. But other than that, I wouldn't say that we really kept too big a tabs on the market.
Okay. And then after you got the mutual fund, did you start to watch the markets a lot more?
Yeah, because of course that's where your bread and butter is then. And we've picked a really good time to start a mutual fund because of course that's right when the market started to turn around. So we've had very nice returns on that.
Yeah. Well, a little different. You actually knew what the market was. For me back in college, wait, what's the stock market? Isn't that where all the geeks hang out? And then I got a mutual fund, and then I started to watch this thing called CNBC. And then the rest is history. So sounds very familiar, our stories at the get-go, except you actually kind of knew what the market was a little bit. So you said you learned technical analysis. You learned about some different things. Were these just all from random resources on the internet? Were these library books? Where exactly was this education coming from at this point?
Yeah, I had a couple of books, and I did a lot of research online. I don't recall what books they were, I guess, but yeah, just pretty much on my own research.
Okay, nice. So, and I like the comment you made about you weren't totally blind, but now knowing what you know, is it fair to say there was still a whole bunch of other stuff that you didn't know?
Most definitely. Your courses have been very eye-opening. So I thought like I said, was fairly educated on technical analysis, but you proved to me that I didn't know nearly as much as I thought I did.
Yeah, I always like, but it's hard to in your defense and anybody's defense, it's hard to not know what you don't know. And there's just a lot more than what appears on the surface to all this stuff. So you're now what sort of, just kind of touch on this, you had certain criteria, but were these, they were shorter term trades. So are we talking like day trades where you want to be out within the next 15 minutes? Or were these more so, kind of swing trades where, maybe I'll be in for the next 15 days? I mean, what sort of time frame were you looking at for these initial quote unquote shorter term trades?
Yeah, they were swing trades, probably 2 to 3 week holds.
Okay, so you were not anywhere close to being a quote unquote day trader at that point in time, which I know now in your journey, you have no problem if you got to get out within 15 minutes. So how did those opening, swing trades, we know the overall context, your mutual funds were doing well, but how were these swing trades going at this point in time?
Some were good, some were bad. I didn't have any major losses and I didn't have any major gains. So I guess that's not too bad of a way to start. No,
it's definitely a pretty fortunate way to start because people either usually hit it big to the upside or essentially lose it big to the downside. So, but this brings up another good question I want to kind of ask you, because I know you said you had done your research on technical analysis. You never jump into anything blindly, which I totally respect. And that's how I kind of approach things now in life as well. What was your methodology for kind of risk management at this time? Were you using kind of stop losses? Did you kind of pick a point on the chart where your thesis was wrong and were willing to get out? Is that why you kept your losses small, or were these just kind of chopping around, not going anywhere quickly, and you just closed them based on time?
Well, I went back and forth for a while, I think, about my risk management because I had learned about trailing stops and tried that on a few of my trades. And it seemed like I was always either giving it too much room or not enough room. And I think that kind of turned into not very good risk management. I quit setting stops. I think I was, like I said, pretty lucky, though. I never had any major losses on those.
So you stopped setting. So I guess at that point, then what made you want to get out? If you had stopped using the trailing stop, then what was your criteria for, okay, I'm going to get out of the trade now?
when it either had gone up and was making me feel pretty good, or it was giving me pain because it was down too far.
So pain did you assign a certain number to pain, or is this just all psychological? Like, okay, I don't like this feeling, I'm selling.
It was just a psychological thing. I still have not perfected my number for
Okay.
pain. I need to work on that.
Okay. So it's because some people are like, all right, well, my max loss is going to be, insert a number, and that is how I'll define pain that I'm not willing to live with. But at this point in your journey, it was just strictly emotional. I don't like it, so I'm just getting out. So, but it sounds like you were getting enough winners, like you said, where even not using a stop loss, you were still able to kind of just chop around. And were you making money? Were you losing money? Or was it essentially just a break even kind of wheels spinning in the mud type situation?
I think I was up a little bit overall after that first 6 months or so. And like I said, I work from home and I was pretty busy at the time. So I didn't do a whole lot of trades. That amount increased. Actually, my son came home, a freshman in high school, one day and said that his teacher had been talking about stock trading and that he wanted to learn about stock trading. And he knew that I had done a little bit. And so we started on a different journey together, which was not so good.
Are you?
Can we go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, I was going to say, can we explore that or no?
You can keep it brief or not at all, but yeah, that's actually really interesting to hear. I wish, that's pretty. I would say that's a pretty rare thing in most households to kind of do that. Mother and son interested in the stock market together. Because when I was that age, man, that stock market was in one ear and out the other.
And he's a very money motivated person, and he's always been really interested in anything that is financial. So, which is awesome. And I was talking to him about this the other day, and he says, well, we always did hobbies together, and that was just kind of that was a new thing that we were going to learn about it and do it together. And he's the same way that I am. He will delve into something and spend, hours, weeks, days, months, whatever, researching something. So I had, kind of tried to help him out learning about the stock market. But the problem was, of course, is he didn't have very big fundage, which led us to look at penny stocks.
Ah, yes. Now from the live webinar, I remember you mentioning penny stocks. So I was just thinking
penny stock millionaires. I love this story. I could see it in the Wall Street Journal now.
Yep. All right, this is getting good. All right. So that's how you ended up in penny stocks. Interesting. Due to your okay. All right. Okay. So you're entering into the world of penny stocks. So I'm on the edge of my seat here.
So then I did I started doing some day trading, and he would also, research different penny stocks and tell me, I want you to take this $200 of mine and buy me this or whatever. So, but we both ended up in more than one of the pump and dumps, of course, and not realizing at the time that those companies just disappear and they never come back.
Well, they come back just with different business models and ticker symbols and, all of the above. So now a question, you said you started a day trade. So what made you go to day trading all of a sudden? You were swing trading, and all of a sudden you're day trading, let alone, were you day trading in penny stocks, or is those still like big board type stocks?
Now I tried day trading the penny stocks. I think actually that probably came about after I started to catch on to this is how this works, that, they pump it up in the morning and it skyrockets for the first 10 minutes. And then if you're not out, you better run for the hills. Right.
So you caught into the game of musical chairs. And now who was executing all this? Was your son in charge of execution, or is he just doing research? What was kind of the quote unquote business model that you and your son were kind of splitting duties between?
Now he, of course he was in school. So like I said, he would give me a ticker symbol and say, I want you to get me $100 of this or whatever. And he, for his age, he took, I don't know, a couple $100 hit, I guess. And which was pretty painful for him. And it took him a little while to get me paid back, because I had, of course, taken it out of my account to do his trades with. But we did not venture in that market for very long because we both figured out that that was not where we wanted to spend our money at. In fact, I just had Scott Trade here about 2 months ago take a couple of those off of my account that like no longer exist, and I was just tired of the reminder and tired of looking at them.
Clay, you summed it up perfectly in the sense of, well, they'll go to whatever is hot now. So I just remember a lot of these names went from, oh, the marijuana industry is hot, so now we're marijuana growers, and ooh, the energy drink business is hot, so now we're an energy drink company, and all these kind of random nonsense. But yes, it is an unfortunate fact that trading penny stocks is truly the Wild West in the sense of people can literally try to get as much money as they can out of it, and then it literally goes off to die, which is a shame for most people, especially if, I'm not sure what your son and you guys were using for research at the time, but yeah, some of these, you can look at them technically too, because I know you had studied technical analysis, and the breakouts will look great. But yeah, unfortunately, the cycle is generally the pump followed by the dump, followed by, a tombstone. So sorry to hear that happened. Not the best, I'm sure the best feeling for, you and your son at the time. I
want to ask one question. So you lent your son that $200 and then he had to pay you back. So you made him pay you back?
Oh yes, he's very financially responsible.
I love that. Well, with that that's good stuff, Ches. Yeah, your son, I'm sorry that you lost $200 on a penny stock, but there's this thing called debt, and yeah, you owe me $200, so you're paying me back. I like that a lot. That's good parenting, right?
So do the dishes, cut the lawn, and we'll call it even in a couple months.
Yeah.
And honestly, I probably would have let him get away with that, but he was like, nope, this is, I wanted to do this, and
he got it done.
Yep.
Oh, so I like your son. I already liked him when you mentioned him previously because he's all into trading already. But yeah, that's good personal responsibility, something that is lacking out there, as Ches and I see quite a bit in the world of customer service and just
to have that in
general.
His teenage years in high school, that's like mind blowing to me. So yes, that's totally awesome, and I'm sure he's going to do great in whatever kind of ventures he goes on to in the future. But yes, that's totally a rare thing.
He's a pretty good guy, and I think I'll take at least some of the credit for that.
Yes,
please do.
Please do. But so you said your time was short lived in the penny stock market. Now, are we going to go back to kind of your swing trading of natural gas, or where does your trading take you from here?
Yeah, I went back into some longer term stuff. I remember I had like PayPal, and I think I had Ford at one time, and I did do a little bit of day trading here and there too after that. And every once in a while, my son would come home again and say, "Hey, I want to put a little money into this stock or whatever." But it was just kind of an off and on thing, I guess, then for quite some time until last year.
Okay, so that's fair enough, and that would make sense. I mean, your son's in school, so it's not like he can just keep burning through cash. So I'm assuming he'd work up, get cash. Okay, now do it here. And for you, you're busy enough as it is. So what a year ago, what all of a sudden sparked? Hey, I want to get active again. What did something happen, or walk us through that?
Well, enter my son again.
Hey, common theme here. I like this.
He wanted to, and I hadn't traded anything for probably 6 months or so, but he wanted to get into Ethan Allen stock last year, and he didn't have a brokerage account yet. So I'm like, well, we'll just do it in mine until you get yours open and funded. And so that got me looking again at the stock market, and I have more time now. We actually are trying to groom someone else to take over our business within the next few years. And we have some rental properties, and I, got to talking to my husband, and like, we could probably keep from buying another rental property if I can trade well enough to get us a little additional income, which I would much rather do than be landlord any more than I already am.
And dealing with those beautiful tenants that we all seem to find when we have rental properties.
I've been extremely lucky, and my son is actually my property manager, and he takes pretty good care of everybody right at the moment. But I don't really want any more. We have 5, and that's enough.
Yeah. And I have 11. And in fact, just today, as of recording, I was almost had to go into court because there's some stuff going on right now. Just the whole process is going on. But luckily, the judge made I don't know, but my lawyer said, all right, you don't have to go. But point here being, Rena, I totally understand the world of real estate. When things are fine, things are great. But yeah, headaches arise every now and then. That goes without saying. So you start to your son piques your interest, but was there something where you were looking at when you were Ethan Allen? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So were you like doing research for Ethan Allen and that all of a sudden led you down a bunch of other rabbit holes that sparked the interest? Or was it just all of a sudden? Because I guess for me, it's like, okay, he wants to get Ethan Allen. That requires an account. So just open up an account. But how did that lead to you all of a sudden getting active again, like we know you are now?
I guess I had just kind of put it on the back burner for a while, and he brought it back up. So I said, I haven't made any trades for a while. I think I want to do this again. And I said, then that led to discussion about that could possibly be a little bit of supplemental income so that we wouldn't have to figure out another rental property. And so I was kind of hanging out on StockTwits, which I do not like StockTwits, but I
got a lot of fans here, by the way. A lot of people think I'm an outstanding individual there. I'm kidding by that one for you listeners out there. When I do my mean tweet videos, probably 80% of those things come from StockTwits. So, but there's some interesting people on StockTwits, but obviously there's good people too, because here's Rena that was hanging out there. So not everybody on StockTwits is a keyboard warrior, but I digress. So you're on Well, actually, I found it fascinating. That makes a lot more sense. So essentially, it was the domino effect. Just by your son bringing up the fact that you have this stock, that was kind of the first domino. Oh, yeah, I like trading. That was the second domino. And then that led into the conversation about, hey, maybe we can do this rental. So that makes a whole lot more sense, because at first it was like, all he needed was an account. So how did that just need an account lead to you? But domino effect there. So that makes sense. So sorry to cut you off, but you're on StockTwits. Where did things go from there? Please don't tell me you bought another, penny stock that was supposed to go to like $8 in a day.
No.
All right.
I just was on StockTwits to kind of see what was trending, just to give me an idea of what was moving that day. It didn't take me very long to realize that hopefully I don't offend anybody too bad, but that most of the people on there are idiots.
You're actually being polite when you say that. That actually being polite.
So I didn't so much, read. I tried to stay away from most of the chatter, but I just wanted to see what was moving for the day, which is what led me to you. I was looking for a chat room that would have a little bit more upper echelon people that actually knew what they were talking about.
So you're telling me you wouldn't appreciate if our chat room turned into us screaming that things are going to the moon all the time? Because those chat rooms are everywhere. But Clay, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I've seen the word moon in our chat room in quite a long time. Well,
if the word moon does show up, there's a warning that then goes out, and if the moon shows, or if it shows up again from that same person, adios. They're gone. So yeah, that's one thing. If anything, your rules are too strict. Yes, they're strict, but
for good reason.
And for good reason. So well, good. I'm glad. Now, I guess I'm on StockTwits. People on StockTwits are idiots. Are you? Does that imply that I'm an idiot? I'm kidding. I'm very sensitive about that. But so how long did it take you to actually join the chat room? Were you kind of on edge for a little bit, or did you kind of just go right in after you had stumbled across? I'm assuming, was it a video chart that you originally saw?
I believe so. Yes, off of StockTwits actually, and I feel for you. They are not very nice to you on StockTwits.
Oh, so you got the reference to I was making earlier, yeah.
Yes, I was like, why are they so mean to Clay?
I don't know. I try to express that to my wife every night as I'm crying as I go to sleep, but
as he's sobbing into his pillow.
Yeah, she just reassures me there's at least one person that likes you in this world, and it's our pet dog. But no, she didn't say that because we don't even have a pet dog. But yeah, no. So all right, well, see, Rena understands the pain and anguish because yeah, they're just not very nice to me there. But yeah, and if you're a listener and have no idea what Rena or myself is talking about, and you don't think that like there's conspiracy theorists out there, just head to StockTwits. You'll see that the tinfoil industry is going strong. And in fact, if you're looking for a worthwhile investment, buy a company that specializes in tin foil, or maybe start a tinfoil hat. That's what we should do, Ches.
Stockpiling tinfoil on my
boat. We should start a tinfoil hat business based off all.
We should sell it in the merchandise page.
We should.
Great.
Anyways, we're really getting off topic here. So you found a video chart. So back to the question, how long did it take you to actually pull the trigger on the chat room, or was it a pretty quick decision on your part?
I joined the chat room right away. And I had, looked at the different educational stuff that you had and thought, I'm a believer in you can never know too much. So I ordered a couple of your courses, and then I ordered a couple of more of your courses, which was not a very good, I didn't do the penny saved, penny earned thing very well because
it worked out good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I ended up paying more because I should have just done the whole thing to begin with. But I wasn't convinced enough in the get-go, I guess, that,
you wanted to manage your risk. You were at the core, you were managing your risk by just dipping your toe in.
We welcome the skeptics because there's a lot of just nonsense out there and awful things that cost a lot of money that have not a lot of value. So we totally understand it. I did the same thing. I did also join before university even existed, but yes, that's totally okay. The key thing is that, I just love that quote there, is that you can never know enough. So I appreciate the fact that even though you were trading for probably multiple years at this point, you were still willing to say, hey, let's see what this guy has to offer and if it can help me out. So I do want to ask you though, so you're taking some courses now. Are you trading off of chat room alerts at this time? Is it after you join the chat room, were you using the alert rooms to help you find names to trade yourself, or how were you using the chat room in that context?
Yes, I do try to trade some of the chat room alerts. I haven't quite found my comfort zone in what or how I want to trade, I guess, yet. So that's something that's a work in progress.
And that's I think that's always a work in progress to an extent, because markets change, so sometimes grooves need to change a little bit. But so I would say that it's not a bad spot to be in, just because that's always kind of shifting, as a journey unfolds. So now options, I know that's what you are trading. So where the heck did where did this creep into your journey? I mean, were you already doing options, or walk us through, this little kind of path? Because I know Ches is a big fan of options.
And I was super impressed in the webinar when you said, sometimes instead of going long stock or buying calls, you would short a put. And I was like, oh, I'm so impressed right now. I love to hear this because you got theta on your side too. So yeah, how did you get into options?
That's all you, Clay. I had heard of options, didn't know much about it, and wanted to know more about it. And so I have thoroughly drenched myself in all of your options courses. Okay.
So it was just you'd heard of them, but was it an intimidation factor? Like, oh, they're too complicated, or you just never gotten around to it? Because for me, I'd always been intimidated by them for the longest time. But what was your reason for not having ever gone down the option route until, the point that you did?
Yeah, I just wasn't educated in them and hadn't taken the time to really look into it. I guess I thought that was something that was more for big time traders, so to speak.
Okay. So it wasn't really an intimidation factor. It was more so just you didn't understand enough to know that, no, it's actually not just for big time traders. So that makes sense. So as it stands right now in your journey, would you say your main focus is stock trading, or you find yourself doing options more? Or maybe just give us kind of the breakdown. What would you say, how do your trades break down between the two vehicles?
I would say that I am in thirds. I sell options, I buy options, and I'm still doing stocks, probably about a third each. And, it's frustrating because one week I can, day trade buying options and it works out perfectly. And like yesterday did not work out perfectly. And so then I think, well, maybe that's not what I need to be doing. Maybe I need to go back to selling instead of buying. And it's just kind of like I said, I haven't found my comfort zone yet.
And that's really probably, I'd say, one of the harder things in trading to do, because Clay, you got to witness this firsthand. I mean, I bounce around between day trading options, day trading, futures, swing trading options, buying buying options for swing trades, and finding where you fit and what you're most comfortable with. And the reason why I always say, it comes down to comfort is because when you're comfortable in what you're looking at and what you're doing, it's much easier to make a decision. So I never, I just, like I said, I just swing trade, pretty much short options. That's what I mainly do. I can look at something and, make a plan, and I know what to do when it goes wrong. So for me, there's not any more of this, the freeze factor, I call it. Because a lot of people, if you get into a bad trade or something, you just freeze. And that's when people start holding the bag and just keeps going down and down, and you don't know what to do. Once you find where you fit specifically and what jives best with you, the freeze factor is gone, at least for me. But yeah, that definitely, that took multiple years for me to even kind of figure out what I'm really kind of best at for the market. Go ahead.
You made a comment, Rena, about if things don't go perfectly well, like yesterday, a trade didn't go perfectly. Do you remember saying, so you used the word perfectly in some sort of context? So what I'm getting at here is, are you saying that if you lose money on a trade, it's not perfect, or what would be your criteria of a good, successful trade or day?
Well, I guess actually when I said the word perfectly, I'm probably thinking more about how the trades felt that day. And of course, successful to me means that I'm in the green instead of in the red. But like last week, every trade that I did was just, it's like, okay, you called the entry, you called the exit, you did all this perfectly. And there's not, like Ches said, the freeze factor, the stress factor. Oh no, it's going against me. Yesterday, that was all I did all day, was have freeze factor, and got stopped out of everything, and my day was red. So then I say it's a frustrating process, and it is the process. And I think I get better as I go here, but I'm still on the journey.
Okay. So this is just, can I give you some outside, just what I'm hearing?
Do it, Clay.
No, I don't. And I'm just thinking, like I said, we'll call this some online, and you can chime in too. But I would say that it sounds like because you have a not perfect day, it's a red day, then all of a sudden, oh, well, maybe I want to focus more on that. I mean, and maybe you already realize this, but that's kind of like, that's just trading as a whole. I don't hear anything. Your stops, all your stops get hit, so you have a red day. Well, welcome to the club.
Following your process, though,
yeah,
I mean, you do it over time, it totally will work out. But yeah, style jumping is a very dangerous thing. Like I said, I was a victim of it. So
and I understand, but it's crazy how the human mind works, because you were just saying the previous week. So last week, was every single day green, or did you just feel good about all your trades? But what was the previous week? Every single day green?
Every day last week was green.
Okay, so I'll stop here. So every single day was green last week. And then did you use the same process and system that led to a red day yesterday?
I did, which led me to do something different today.
Okay, so let's just stop and break this down. 5 days of green using a process, and then 1 day of red has all. And I'm not bashing you, I'm just saying it's a good case study into the human mind. But 5 green, and then the same process led to, and was the red day, it sounds like it was controlled. I mean, it's, if you were using stop losses, there weren't any sort of like massive blowout losses, were there?
No, actually, I just had this discussion yesterday, though, that I need to set an amount per day, because I was minimizing every loss, but I added them up because I didn't quit.
Yeah, but even with that, this is a good problem to have, because you didn't quit, but it's not like you're sitting here a huge account, so or a huge loss in the account. So I guess what I'm just getting at is, just because you have one red day and you admitted so you started doing a bunch of other things. Well, you can't start doing a bunch of different things because you got, you had 5 green days last week, right? Does that make sense? How it's amazing how the human mind, you're all of a sudden starting to doubt the process, even though the process had led you to 5 green days before the one red day.
Totally. And that's me with everything, I think.
You're an overachiever, and that's why overachievers, and why people that actually, goal oriented, successful people like yourself, who's, clearly just listening. I mean, you're just a hard worker, an overachiever. You want to do things right. You want to be successful at it.
And
Great
in your mind, you think you did something wrong yesterday, when in reality, it was just the market environment. So I totally get you, though. It's that's frustrating. Doesn't even sum it up. But at the same time, you got to have trust in yourself and your abilities, and just recognize that. You brought up such a good point, though, about kind of you continue to press it, and you want to kind of set like a hard limit when to kind of call it a day. It's so hard to kind of. There is, in my opinion, there is no right or wrong answer for that, because I fully am aware of that and know all about that, pressing it when it's just not working. And I think with time, and Clay, I want you to weigh in on this too. I think with time, you just start to realize when things aren't jiving, maybe after like the first couple of trades, and you're just like, well, it's not my day here. You could still kind of be on the lookout for setups, but when to call it quits is a hard thing, because I was exactly like you in the sense of, I didn't quit. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to trade any of the opportunities I see. And as long as you're not doing it in like a revenge trading fashion, there's no problem with that. But for me personally, usually after about, I think if I had strung together like 2 or 3 losses, about three or more losses in a row, I was like, it's just not my day. I'm just having trouble reading this. It's just not working for me. And I would call it quits. But yeah, it's so hard, because I don't even know how to kind of put it into words about how to, approach it. For me, it just took time and kind of experience. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that can come overnight, and I don't think there's like a real cut and dry answer for it either.
Yeah, and all of us stumbling over our words is exactly why trading is so difficult, because there's something there, but explaining it is hard to explain. So you stumble over your words, this little conversation was the epitome of why the failure rates in trading are so high. Because again, just to reiterate, Rena, using a system, had 5 green days in a row, 1 red day, has all of a sudden her confidence shook, and she's starting to shift away and try other things all of a sudden, just because one day. So she is 5 for 6, but that one thing is just, it's kind of, this is just me from a business perspective, especially when I was first getting started with all this stuff. Clay, you're doing a great job. Hey, Clay, you have great content. Clay, you really helped me out. Nice, good, positive testimonials. And then you get somebody on StockTwits. You're a scumbag, you blah, blah, blah. And what do you think I do? I've just had 10 good compliments. I just sit there, and it used to simmer with me. And what am I doing wrong? Why didn't this person like me? Why did they have to say that mean thing? And eventually you get to the point where you're like, wait a second, let's do some math and statistics here. I just had 10 good compliments, and then I'm not going to let, and I'm not trying to come like we're patting ourselves on the back, but we get a whole lot more positive feedback than, the occasional troll now and then. So the same thing here is the way our mind works. And that's what makes it so tricky. So I guess what I'm saying to you, Rena, is don't quite give up on what you've been doing, whatever it was last week, because it clearly was working. It's not going to work every day. And just thinking what Sean does, who has been on the podcast, she was actually just on several episodes ago, but I know she puts in a hard kind of max loss for the day. And if she hits that, then she's done. So just thinking out loud here and brainstorming, maybe establish some sort of number. So earlier you said, I don't know how to define pain yet. You're still working on it. Well, I think that should be your next goal. What is pain for me? Assign that number. And if you hit it, then you're just done for the day. And it is what it is.
No problem. Turn it off, come back the next day and trade fresh.
Does that make sense, Rena? Because I realize I'm just blabbing right now, but this is what happens when I just brainstorm and talk out loud. But does that make sense?
Yes, you're on a tangent.
A tangent. There you go. Very nice. Very nice.
Yes, I decided yesterday that I definitely need to do that, but I did not come up with that number. And then I kind of switched things around today and didn't do so hot today either. But tomorrow's a new day, right?
Because you switched things around. You didn't stick with the process. Somebody left you. You got that mean comment yesterday by the red day, and then all of a sudden you started to doubt everything. But you were doing fine. Think about all the good compliments you got the previous 5 days,
The self-doubt thing is a
there you go. Self-doubt
is real. Oh yeah, it's real.
There it is. Self-doubt. That's what I was looking for. And self-doubt comes in all areas of life. But yeah, you have a little self-doubt. You change things up more. That didn't turn out well. So I would say go back to what you're doing and find that pain point. This is good stuff, because this is like actual real trading talk here. I mean, not that any of our other interviews isn't real, because we're learning, but This is all of us
We've
just
been
shooting
at
off
a
the
loss
cuff.
for words multiple times because it's so hard to explain some of this stuff until you've actually done it. So any of you listeners out there who aren't in the market yet, I promise you that we're not trying to make this sound like it's difficult, but it takes a lot of effort and it takes time and it's not going to happen overnight. But the important thing is that, once you kind of work towards it, you've trained, you've practiced, you're applying what you're taught. Clay, you just nailed it with the similarities about the one bad comment out of 10. And then it lingers with you. I've even had days where I finished positive and had one red trade to end the day, and I'm still positive, and it'll simmer with me all through the day for the rest of the day. And it just kind of takes time to realize that, you're not always going to, not everyone will like you. So that's for you, Clay, obviously. And that now, obviously, you've been doing this for a long time, and not every trade will work out. That's our goal in the market is literally long-term growth using probabilities and odds in our favor. And it's not about one single day. It's about the months that add up into the years. And then that's how you're really kind of doing it. But trust me, I understand the frustration and it's hard, but we have gone down some very good rabbit holes in this podcast. But can I spin this back towards what Rena's kind of doing now, Clay?
Yeah, definitely. Spin away.
All right. So I know you had, like I said, in the podcast, or the webinar, you had talked about, debating day trading long or short options. So can you kind of touch more into that? Were you actually, day trading kind of, say, if you want to go long something, you're shorting puts? Were you doing that in a day trade fashion? Because, to me, I've never done that in a day trade capacity. I've only done it in swing trade capacity. So I just want to see if that's how you're doing it.
No, I was not. I don't day trade when I do that. And most of the time, actually, it's worked out that I can just hold them, or I guess I'm not holding them. You know what I mean? Until expiration. Sure.
So you're really taking advantage of kind of the theta and the decay aspect, right? Awesome. Yeah. So that's exactly what I do. But I wanted to see if you were actually using that in a day trade capacity, because we had an interview a long time ago. It was a two-parter actually with Patty. And my suggestion for him a long time ago was, oh yeah, instead of buying calls, just, short puts from now on, or instead of, buying puts, short calls and stuff like that. And I've never actually, I don't think we have anybody in the community who does that on a day trade fashion, which is totally fine. But I just want to see, I wasn't sure if you were the first. So I just had to kind of put it out there.
Nope. I'm not breaking any traditions today.
Well, that's fine. We've had, this has been a good conversation, and looking at the time here, we'll start to wrap things up. But I'm curious, just because you have such a history with technical analysis, both from the courses here at Clay Trader, and then also from all the free stuff that you got. So after all this knowledge that you've gathered, tell us what your chart looks like. I mean, what sort of indicators are you using? But if we were sitting next to you looking at your chart, what would we see?
Well, for day trades, it's pretty much price, volume, the moving averages, and the Bollinger Bands. For anything that I would like to swing trade, I usually do at least check out the MACD and maybe in stochastics or one of those.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, Rena, I want to say thank you very much for being a guest today, not only on the podcast, but also on the webinar on such short notice. People are absolutely loving it. I know they're going to absolutely love this podcast too. But I do know the real reason you came on to the show today was to borrow my time machine. So if I was to lend it to you and you could go back to any time period you want and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Probably to take your time. I have still the problem, and have always had the problem, that it's like, oh no, the trade is going to go without me. And there's always another trade. And I'm always telling my son, when we talk about stops or when we talk about getting into a trade, if you play it right and minimize your losses, you live to trade another day. So that would have been probably my advice to begin with.
But you are giving that advice to your son, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, then there's no better way to kind of redeem yourself than pass along that advice to your son, because that's, I actually shed a tear over here. That was so beautifully said. If you can live to fight another day, well, then you can fight another day. But if you blow up your account because you get the gotta go big or go home, well, if you go home, you're home. And so perfectly said. And son, if you listen to this, well, Rena's son, that is, if you listen to this, hey, take your mom's advice. This is good stuff. It's making two grown men over here cry because it's so beautifully put. So, but yeah, that's that's a great bit of advice to give yourself, because at the end of the day, and you longtime listeners have heard Jez and I beat this dead horse over and over again. It's all about risk management, and that's what Rena, just summarized beautifully. So, all right. Now, Rena, it's time for this is where the interview gets hard, because now we have the very serious questions, and I'm going to kick off this session with, what is your favorite movie?
Oh my gosh, Clay, and I knew you were going to ask me that.
Were you nervous? Did I have you there?
I am not a person that ever watches a movie more than once. And so I don't have like the go back and...
What have you watched recently that you liked? How about that?
No, I want a favorite.
Rena's exactly like me. I'm not the biggest movie guy.
Rena, you don't watch movies more than once. Well, if I said, Rena, you're going to watch another movie for the second time, what would that movie be? Let's change up the question here a little bit.
I don't like this question.
Well,
I like movies. I like lots of different kinds of movies, and I like horror movies.
You do?
I do.
See, if we were watching a horror movie together, I would be the one cuddling up next to you, being terrified, because I hate horror movies.
Yeah, Clay ends up bear hugging his wife and hiding his face in his shoulder when the scary things come out.
No, we don't even watch them because she doesn't like him either. If we did, we'd be up all night. Every little like shadow on the wall, it would not be. So, all right, that's good enough. You like horror movies, and do you have any? What's a good horror movie that you saw or that you've seen recently?
Saw is always a good horror movie.
There's a classic.
Rena's too intense for me. This is crazy. I'll never see that movie. I've heard about it.
I remember going to see that movie on a date, and I was like, yeah, it's probably not good for your date to see you all terrified anyways, I don't want you to have nightmares, Clay, so I won't kind of talk about the movie. But
that brings up a good side story, but we won't. That'll be a fun fact at some point. All right. That just reminded me of something.
So I'm going to give you an easier one here because just because I feel that I need to. What is your favorite meal and dessert?
Sushi and cheesecake.
See, that wasn't good. That wasn't very difficult. So she's got that down.
Where do you live, by the way, if you're willing to disclose your geographic location?
Colorado.
Oh, that's right. I knew that. Denver, because you want to have the next meet and greet in Denver.
That's right. I'm north of Denver, about 45 minutes.
That's right. So if we do one in Denver, which rumor on the street is that the odds continually increase, would come to the one in Denver then, assuming that bet?
Definitely come to the one in Denver.
Okay. Would you bring your son?
I would.
That would be cool. He's like 21
really cool.
now? 22? I can't remember 22. What you said.
Mm-hmm.
22. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I know there would be at least two people there then. Chez, I would hope you would be there since you're in Denver. And
well,
then
we'll see.
Yeah. We'll you might be out in your time machine someplace else. So, all right. Sushi and cheesecake. What kind of cheesecake?
Just plain old cheesecake. I don't like anything on it.
You like to stick with the blue chips. You're just going tried and true. No need to get fancy with it. I like that. Yep. What about hobbies? What do you like to do, outside of the market?
My husband would probably tell you that I don't have hobbies. I have obsessions.
Yes. I understand how that goes for sure.
My biggest hobby would be dog training. I do agility with my dogs. I have 4 dogs. I do agility with 2 of them. I do dock diving with 1 of them. And I have one that's a therapy dog that we go to hospitals and see hospice patients, things like that.
Wow, that's really cool.
You and my wife would get along so swimmingly. So you should definitely come to the Denver meetup when Clay plans it, because now you're pretty much forced to do that. So I do have
a question though. What is agility exactly? Is that where like the dog runs in between cones and stuff like that, or am I just way out in left field here?
Yep, I'll send you a video. Yeah, they do like the teeter totters and jumps and
through the tubes and all that stuff.
Yep, tunnels, all that. Yeah,
that hospice thing goes really. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I have a feeling that my wife's going to want to get into that, but our dog still needs some training. He's not calm.
Hey, I know a dog trainer that's just 45 minutes north of you, so I'm just throwing that out there. Rena, I can smell a business venture for you right here. I'm not even kidding.
I used to have one.
Oh, did you?
When I lived in Nebraska, I had a dog training business, and I don't so much do that out here. My own are enough, but yeah, the hospice therapy is a very rewarding thing, and my little Aussie that does it is just. He was meant to do it. I don't know. He just is a soulful little guy, so works out well.
Awesome. Nice.
All right. So, Rena, what are 3 words you believe should be associated with successful trading?
Well, probably 3 words that I would use to describe success at anything: dedication, self-control, and being realistic.
I like that.
Yeah, I do. I don't think we've had 2 of those 3 words. So I'm absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's but well said, and that's absolutely the truth. Is you got to keep things realistic. So on that, remember, keep things realistic. You had 5 green days and then 1 red day. So from a realistic point of view, don't go and start to change around the whole business model. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Excellent.
teach.
Yeah, okay. There's that apple just got even bigger that you put on the desk. So in all seriousness, no, although we all, myself, probably the most stumbled over our words quite a bit, this was a super valuable conversation. And to Chez's note, if you've never traded, you probably don't really understand and can't really relate to exactly why it was kind of hard to explain, but just realize that, what we were talking about in terms of the mental things and the psychology, that was definitely, one of the better discussions we've had in the history, just because that does summarize just how trading is so tricky. And just because you can read a chart, or just because you can read a cash flow statement or a balance sheet, that's kind of surface deep in terms of what it takes to actually be a trader. So thank you for taking us down that rabbit hole. And again, thank you again for being on that live webinar and talking to us about a trade. We'll definitely have you back at some point so you can talk about one of the good days. But like I said, started and I'll end with this. A lot of feedback on that. And I know a lot of the members were truly helped out by that. So thank you for hanging out with us, Rena.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be in touch. I'll see you in the chat room, I guess. So for you listeners out there, before you go, a final few things. If you're listening to this on YouTube, check out the rest of the channel. Be sure to subscribe. There are other videos available, live trading videos, quick tip videos, just random videos. So definitely check out the channel. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, please subscribe, especially on iTunes. If you would leave us a rating, hopefully a positive one, that really does help us out. And it's one of those small things that you can do where if you enjoy the show and want us to keep on going, then that's just an easy way to communicate that to us. And finally, if you're watching, or I should say listening on the website, click that share button and leave us a comment below. We will read those and definitely respond to them. So thank you again to all you as listeners. We will see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.